Hey there, everyone. I'm so excited to share a super cool story with you today. Before we get started, I've got a quick question. Have you ever had a neighbor who was super nosy and acted like they were the boss of everything? Maybe they peeked over your fence or complained about your dog barking. Drop a comment below and tell me all about it. Oh, and let me know where you're watching from, maybe your city or your cozy couch. If you love fun stories like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any more. Ready? Let's dive in. Okay, picture this. It's a bright, sunny afternoon. The sky is blue, the birds are chirping, and the air smells like fresh grass. In a quiet little neighborhood, there's a guy named Jake Turner. Jake's new in town, and he just moved into a cute, cozy house with a big front yard and a shiny red mailbox. He's the kind of guy who waves at everyone, says hi with a big smile, and keeps to himself. He seems super nice, right? But here's the thing, Jake isn't just any ordinary guy. Nope. Behind that friendly grin, he's hiding something huge. Something that could shake up this fancy neighborhood like a big, wild storm. Nobody knows it yet, but they're about to find out. Now let's talk about this neighborhood for a second. It's one of those places where every house looks perfect. The lawns are super neat, like someone cut the grass with scissors. The flowers are bright and colorful, and every mailbox matches. It's like a picture from a magazine. But there's one big problem in this pretty place, a lady named Linda Harper. Oh boy, Linda is something else. She's the boss of the neighborhood group called the HOA, which stands for Homeowners Association. That means she makes rules for everyone, like how tall your grass can be or what color your curtains should be. Sounds strict, right? Well, Linda loves being in charge. She walks around with a clipboard, writing down every little thing she doesn't like. If your bike is in the driveway, Linda's there, shaking her head. If your trash can is out too early, yup, Linda's writing you a note. She thinks she's the queen of the street. Jake, though, he's not like the other neighbors who just nod and follow Linda's rules. He's super calm, but there's something about him that makes you wonder. Maybe it's the way he looks at Linda when she's bossing people around, like he knows something she does. His house is nice and tidy, but he's got this one thing that drives Linda nuts, a fancy smart lock on his front door. It's shiny and high-tech, with a little blue light that blinks sometimes. Most people wouldn't care about a lock, but Linda. Oh, she hates it. She thinks it's weird and suspicious, like Jake's hiding something big behind that door. Every time she walks by, she stares at it, her eyes all squinty and her lips pursed tight. Let's go back to that sunny afternoon. Jake's outside watering his flowers. He's got a green hose in his hand and he's humming a little tune. The water sparkles in the sunlight and his flowers look happy and bright. Everything feels peaceful, like the perfect day. But then, oh, here comes Linda. She's marching down the sidewalk, her clipboard tucked under her arm. Her shoes click-clack on the pavement and her face looks grumpy, like she just ate a sour lemon. She stops right in front of Jake's yard, her hands on her hips. Hey you, she calls out, pointing at Jake. What's with that weird lock on your door? It doesn't look right. Her voice is loud and a couple of neighbors peek out their windows to see what's going on. Jake turns off the hose and looks at her, super calm. It's just a lock, Linda, he says with a little smile. Keeps my house safe. But Linda's not having it. She steps closer, her eyes glaring at the lock like it's a monster. Safe, huh, she says, her voice all suspicious. I don't trust it, or you. What are you hiding in there? Jake just shrugs, still smiling. Nothing to hide, he says, but the way he says it, cool and steady, makes Linda even madder. Now you might be thinking, why does Linda care so much about a lock? Good question. See, Linda's the kind of person who needs to know everything about everyone. If someone's got a secret, she wants to figure it out so she can stay the boss. Jake's new and he's quiet, and that makes her nervous. Plus, that smart lock. It's not like the boring old locks everyone else has. It's different, and Linda doesn't like different. She likes everything to be the same, her way. As Linda stomps away, muttering to herself, Jake watches her go. His smile fades just a tiny bit and his eyes get this sharp look like he's thinking hard. He's not mad though. Nope, Jake's too cool for that. But you can tell he's paying attention. He notices everything: Linda's loud voice, the way she waves her clipboard like a weapon, even the sneaky glance she throws at his lock before she turns the corner. Jake's not just watering flowers today. He's watching, waiting, and maybe even planning something. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about Jake. When he moved in, nobody knew much about him. He showed up one day with a small moving truck, a couple of boxes, and that big smile. He didn't throw a big party or tell everyone his life story. He just said, "Hey, I'm Jake," and started fixing up his house. The neighbors thought he was nice but boring. Just some guy, they said, but boring guys don't have shiny smart locks that make HOA queens lose their minds, do they? And boring guys don't look at people like Linda the way Jake does, like he's one step ahead in a game she doesn't even know she's playing. The neighborhood's full of whispers about Jake now. Some people think he's just weird. Why's he so quiet? They ask. Others think he's hiding something juicy, like maybe he's a secret millionaire or a famous singer in disguise. Linda, though, she's sure he's trouble. She tells everyone who'll listen that Jake Turner's up to no good, mark my words. But Jake, he doesn't argue or fight back. He just keeps doing his thing, mowing his lawn, waving at kids on bikes, and locking his door with that fancy lock every night. By now, you're probably super curious, right? What's Jake's deal? Why's he so calm when Linda's being so mean? And what's up with that lock? Don't worry, I'm not gonna spill all the secrets yet. That's what makes this story so fun. It's like a puzzle, and every piece is gonna fit together soon. For now, just imagine Jake standing in his yard, the sun shining on his face, his flowers blooming bright. He looks like a regular guy, but deep down, he's got a plan. A big one, and Linda. She's walking right into it without even knowing. Oh, and one more thing before we move on. Think about this. Have you ever met someone who seemed super normal but turned out to be totally surprising? Maybe a quiet kid at school who was secretly awesome at drawing, or a neighbor who ended up being a hero. Jake, like that, but way bigger. His secret's gonna change everything, and when it comes out, jaws are gonna drop. So what do you think so far? Are you Team Jake or wondering if Linda's got a point? Drop a comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see how this crazy story unfolds. Trust me, it's gonna get wild. Let's keep going and find out what happens next in this sunny little neighborhood with its not-so-sunny secrets. Jake Turner lived on a street where everything looked perfect. But one person made it feel like a battlefield: Linda Harper. Linda was the boss of the HOA, which is a group that makes rules for the neighborhood. She acted like she owned every single thing, every tree, every sidewalk, even every tiny blade of grass. If your flowers weren't the right color, Linda would know. If your trash can was out too early, Linda would write you a note. She was the kind of person who'd pull out a ruler to measure your lawn, and if it was even a teeny bit too long, bam, you'd get a fine in the mail. Everyone was a little scared of her, and Linda loved that. But Jake, oh, he was different. From the moment he moved into his cute little house, Linda had her eyes on him like a hawk. She didn't like that he was new, and she really didn't like that he didn't act nervous around her. Most people would say, yes, Linda, or sorry, Linda, but Jake, he just smiled and went about his day. That drove her nuts. One sunny morning, Linda marched right up to Jake's porch. She had her trusty clipboard in one hand, and her face looked like she'd just bitten into a sour apple. Jake was outside, sipping coffee and checking his phone. His front door had a shiny smart lock, the kind that lights up and beeps when you use it. It was super cool, but to Linda, it was like a big red flag. Hey, she barked, pointing at the lock. That thing looks weird. What are you hiding in there? Her voice was loud, and a neighbor across the street peeked out to see what was going on. Jake looked up, super calm, and shrugged. It's just a lock, Linda, he said, his voice nice and steady. Keeps my stuff safe. But Linda wasn't buying it. She squinted at him, her eyes all narrow like she was trying to see right through him. Safe, huh, she said. I don't trust it, or you. Then she scribbled something on her clipboard and stomped off, her shoes making angry clicks on the pavement. Now Jake watched her go, his face still relaxed. But if you looked closely, you'd see a tiny spark in his eyes, like he wasn't worried at all. Like maybe he knew something Linda didn't, and that was just the start. The next day, Linda was back at it. This time, she didn't even knock. She stood in Jake's driveway staring at his mailbox. It was bright red and shiny, the kind that makes you smile when you see it. But to Linda, it was a problem. This mailbox is too fancy, she yelled, waving her arms like it was the worst thing ever. Jake was mowing his lawn, and he turned off the mower to listen. Too fancy, he asked, wiping his forehead. It's just a mailbox, Linda. She huffed, her cheeks turning red. It doesn't match the others. You're breaking the rules. Jake tilted his head like he was thinking about it, then said, Okay, I'll think about it. But he didn't sound scared, and that made Linda madder than ever. Every single day, Linda found something new to pick on. One morning, it was Jake's car. He'd parked it in front of his house, nice and neat, but Linda said it was too close to the line. Whatever that meant, she stood there measuring the space with a tape measure, muttering to herself. This is unacceptable, she shouted. Jake was on his porch reading a book. He looked up and said, It's parked fine, Linda, no worries. But she just glared and wrote another note on her clipboard. Another time, she complained about Jake's flowers. He'd planted some bright yellow daisies and they looked so cheerful. But Linda, nope, she didn't like them. Those flowers are too tall, she said, pointing at them like they'd done something wrong. Jake was watering his grass and he just nodded. They're just flowers, he said, super chill. They make the yard look nice. Linda crossed her arm. They're against the rules, she snapped, then turned and walked away, her nose in the air. Now you're probably thinking, why did Jake get mad? Linda was being so mean, picking on him for no reason. But Jake wasn't like that. He stayed cool as a cucumber no matter what she said. When she yelled about his mailbox, he smiled. When she fussed about his car, he shrugged. When she complained about his flowers, he just kept watering them. It was like nothing could shake him. and that quiet confidence, it was driving Linda up the wall. See, Linda was used to people doing what she wanted. If she said, "Fix your lawn," they'd fix it. If she said, "Move your car," they'd move it. But Jake, he didn't argue, but he didn't jump to obey her either. He'd listen, nod, and then do whatever he thought was right. That made Linda feel like she was losing control, and she hated it. So she started watching him even closer, looking for any little thing to get him in trouble. One afternoon, Linda took it to a whole new level. She stood in the middle of the street, talking to a group of neighbors. "That Jake Turner is trouble," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's got that sneaky lock, and who knows what he's doing in there. I bet he's up to no good." The neighbors whispered to each other, some nodding like they believed her. Jake was in his garage fixing a bike, and he heard every word, but he didn't say anything. He just kept working, his hands steady, his face calm. If you looked at him, though, you'd see that spark in his eyes again, like he was waiting for the right moment. Linda's words spread like wildfire. Soon, people were giving Jake funny looks when he walked by. Kids stopped riding their bikes near his house. One lady even crossed the street when she saw him coming. It was like Linda was turning the whole neighborhood against him. But Jake, he didn't let it bother him. He waved at people anyway, said hi to the kids, and kept his yard looking great. He wasn't going to let Linda's mean words stop him from being himself. Deep down, though, Jake was watching Linda just as much as she was watching him. He noticed how she always carried that clipboard like it was her shield. He saw how she'd get extra loud when she thought people were listening. And he paid attention to the way she'd glance at his smart lock every time she passed by, like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Jake wasn't just staying quiet, he was keeping track of everything, like a detective collecting clues. By now, the air on Jake's street felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Linda was pushing harder, trying to make Jake crack. But Jake, he was like a rock, steady and strong. Something about his calm made Linda nervous, like she was missing something big. And she was right to be nervous, because Jake's secret was bigger than she could ever guess, and it was about to change everything. Time went by, and things on Jake's street got even crazier. Weeks turned into more weeks, and Linda Harper, the HOA boss, wasn't slowing down. Nope, she was getting louder and meaner, like a storm cloud that just kept growing. She was picking on Jake more than ever, and it was starting to feel like a big game, one where Linda thought she was winning. But Jake, he wasn't playing her game at all. He was way too smart for that. One morning, super early at 7 a.m., there was a loud knock on Jake's door. Bang, bang, bang. Jake was still in his pajamas, sipping orange juice when he opened the door. Guess who? Yup, Linda, standing there with her clipboard and a grumpy frown. "Your sprinklers are too noisy," she complained, her voice sharp like a teacher scolding a kid. Jake blinked, rubbing his eyes. "Noisy?" he asked. "They're just watering the grass." But Linda shook her head, her lips tight. "They're waking up the whole street." She said, "Fix it or I'll make you." Then she turned and marched off, her shoes clicking like little hammers. Jake watched her go, scratching his head. Noisy sprinklers, that was a new one. He didn't argue, though. He just closed the door, poured more juice, and smiled to himself. Linda could yell all she wanted, but Jake wasn't going to let her ruin his day. That wasn't the end of it. Linda started doing something even sneakier. She began telling stories about Jake to the neighbors. Not nice stories either. She'd walk around the block, stopping at every house, saying stuff like, "That Jake Turner is up to no good," or "I bet he's hiding something in that house." She'd point at his cute little house with the shiny red mailbox and make it sound like a spooky mystery. And you know what? A lot of people believed her. After all, Linda was the queen of the neighborhood. If she said something, it must be true, right? So the neighbors started acting weird around Jake. When he waved at them, some wouldn't wave back. When he said hi to Mrs. Carter, who lived next door, she'd just nod and hurry inside. Even the kids who used to ride their bikes by his house stopped coming around. It was like Linda had put up an invisible wall and Jake was on the wrong side of it. But Jake, he didn't get mad or sad. He kept being his friendly self, mowing his lawn, planting flowers, and saying good morning to anyone who'd listen. That made Linda even more annoyed because she wanted him to fight back. She wanted him to act scared, but Jake, he was cool as ice. Here's the thing, though, Jake wasn't just ignoring Linda. Oh no, he was paying attention, really close attention. While Linda was busy yelling and writing notes on her clipboard, Jake was watching her like a detective in a movie. He started noticing stuff that nobody else did, like how Linda's fancy black SUV was always parked in her driveway at strange times. Sometimes it was there super late at night when everyone else was asleep. Other times it was gone super early, before the sun came up. Weird, right? Then there was the package thing. Jake saw Linda sneaking big boxes into her garage after dark. Not just one or two, but lots of them almost every week. She'd look around like she was making sure nobody was watching, then hurry inside with the boxes. Jake would be on his porch pretending to read a book or water his plants, but his eyes were on her. He didn't say anything to anyone, but he was keeping track in his head, like putting together a puzzle with tiny pieces. Every day, Linda's complaints got wilder. One time she said Jake's grass was too green. Too green, can you believe that? Another time she fussed because his porch light was on too late. "It's bothering everyone," she shouted, even though nobody else cared. Jake would just nod and say, "Okay, Linda, I'll check on it." But he never changed a thing, and that made her face turn redder than a tomato. Then one sunny afternoon, Linda went too far. She stormed into Jake's driveway, her clipboard waving like a flag. Jake was washing his car, scrubbing the hood with a soapy sponge. The water sparkled in the sun, and Jake was humming a little song. But Linda didn't care about the nice day. She pointed at his front door, right at that shiny smart lock she hated so much. "That lock," she yelled, loud enough for the whole street to hear. "It's probably illegal. I'm calling the cops." The neighbors nearby froze. Mrs. Carter dropped her garden hose. Mr. Lee, who was walking his dog, stopped in his tracks. Everyone was watching. Jake put down his sponge and looked at Linda, one eyebrow raised. "The cops," he said, his voice super calm. "Go ahead, Linda, call 'em." He didn't sound scared at all. In fact, he sounded almost like he was daring her. There was a little spark in his eyes, like he was holding a secret and waiting for the perfect time to share it. Linda blinked, surprised. She wasn't used to people talking back like that. For a second, she just stood there, her mouth open. Then she huffed, spun around, and stomped back to her house, muttering about troublemakers. Jake watched her go, then picked up his sponge and kept washing his car like nothing had happened. But if you looked closely, you'd see a tiny smile on his face, a smile that said, "Just wait." By now, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. People whispered about Jake and his weird lock. Some thought Linda was right, that he was hiding something bad. Others weren't so sure. They liked Jake's friendly waves and how he always helped carry groceries for old Mr. Thompson. But Linda's words were loud and they stuck in people's heads. The street felt like it was split. Team Linda on one side, wondering about Jake, and a few people quietly rooting for him on the other. Jake, though, wasn't worried about the whispers. He kept doing his thing, fixing his bike, painting his fence, watering his daisies. But all the while, he was collecting those puzzle pieces. Linda's late-night SUV, the sneaky packages, the way she got nervous when he looked at her too long. He didn't tell anyone what he was thinking, but he was building something big in his mind. Something that could turn everything upside down. The air on the street was getting heavy, like before a big rain. Linda was pushing harder, trying to make Jake leave or mess up. But Jake was ready. He wasn't just a quiet guy with a fancy lock. He was smart, and he was waiting for the right moment to show everyone what he knew. Linda thought she was in charge, but she was about to learn she picked the wrong guy to mess with. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky pink and orange. It was a brand new day on Jake's street, but it wasn't going to be a quiet one. Linda Harper, the HOA boss who thought she ruled everything, was ready to make her biggest move yet. The day before, she'd stood in Jake's driveway, yelling about his shiny smart lock and threatening to call the cops. Most people would have been nervous, but Jake, he just told her to go ahead. And guess what? Linda wasn't messing around. That morning, Linda woke up early, grabbed her phone and dialed 911. She was mad and her voice was loud as she talked to the person on the other end. "There's a guy named Jake Turner," she said, packing in her kitchen. "He's got a shady lock on his door and I know he's hiding something bad. You need to come check it out right now." She went on, saying Jake's lock looked illegal and that he was probably trouble. "I demand you investigate." She shouted like she was the boss of the police, too. When she hung up, she smiled a big, smug smile, the kind you make when you think you've won a game. She was sure the cops would show up, scare Jake, and prove she was right all along. Linda put on her best jacket, grabbed her clipboard, and stood on her porch waiting. She wanted everyone to see her big victory. Across the street, Jake was outside, watering his flowers like it was any other day. His daisies looked bright and happy, and he was humming a little tune. He didn't seem worried at all, which made Linda's smile get even bigger. "Just wait," she muttered to herself. "He's in for it now." Pretty soon, the sound of sirens filled the air. 2 police cars rolled down the street, their lights flashing red and blue. Neighbors peeked out their windows and some stepped onto their porches to watch. Mrs. Carter, who lived next to Jake, clutched her coffee mug. Mr. Lee, walking his dog, stopped to stare. Kids on bikes pulled over to the sidewalk, whispering to each other. Everyone wanted to know what was going on. The police cars stopped right in front of Jake's house. Linda's eyes lit up and she marched across the street, ready to point at Jake and say, "I told you so." She was sure the cops were there to ask Jake tough questions and maybe even take him away. But when the officers got out of their cars, something funny happened. They didn't walk toward Jake's door. Nope. They turned and looked right at Linda. Linda's smug grin started to fade like ice melting in the sun. Her clipboard slipped a little in her hands. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice wobbly. One of the officers, a tall man with a serious face, stepped forward. "Linda Harper," he said, looking straight at her. Linda nodded, confused. "Why, yes, that's me," she said. The officer didn't smile. "We need to talk," he said, his voice calm but firm. The neighbors gasped, their eyes wide. Linda's mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. She looked at Jake, hoping he'd be in trouble instead, but Jake wasn't even moving. He was just leaning against his doorframe, his arms crossed, watching everything. And guess what? He had a little grin on his face, like he knew exactly what was happening. See, here's the big surprise. Jake wasn't just some regular guy who moved into a cute house. Nope, he was an undercover investigator, like a secret detective working on a super important case.